Greetings, parish orphans and retrogrades. We are a little over 15 hours from the funerary service of Pope Francis I, which takes place tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. local time in Rome at St. Peter's Basilica. We're going to bring you a little up-to-date sort of synopsis of who's going to be there, what's going to happen after the funeral, when will the conclave begin, all of that. So that's what today's show is. I thought about live streaming the funeral, but I don't really know that anyone wants to get up at 3 in the morning if you're in Central Standard Time. And it's also disrespectful to really say anything over the Holy Pontiff's, or really anyone for that matter's, funeral. So it makes more sense for us to give you the play-by-play, if you will, ahead of time, and to tell you what to expect over the course of the next, let's say, 11 days. Because there's a standard, a tradition in the Catholic Church of a 9-day wait after the burial. So it begins, 9 days begins tomorrow on Saturday and the 26th, and will end on Sunday going into Monday of 9 days later, which is going to be the first week of May. At that point, probably Monday, Tuesday, the conclave will begin to elect the 267th Pope. So that's what today's show will be. Who's going to be there tomorrow? Who's going to be leading the funeral? Who does lead the funeral? It's typically the Dean of the College of Cardinals, Giovanni Battista Re, and what other heads of state are going to be there. Pope Francis has been lying in state open for the last 3.5 days, and not about a day after he died. They just closed St. Peter's about a half hour ago. There had been a long line to pay final pre-funerary respects to Francis. They just closed it about 25 minutes ago, and it's going to be closed until 10 a.m. Rome time tomorrow. Of course, it's local time. About what time is it here? Is it about 7 p.m. there? A little before 7 p.m. So
it's 11:37.
Okay, so it's 6:37 p.m. local time there. We have about 15 hours and a little change until the funeral begins. We'll bring you some now coverage on what to expect from the funeral tomorrow. First, I'd like to open with the traditional prayer recommended by Bishop Athanasius Schneider for imploring holy popes. So let's begin with this in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Kyrie eleison, Christe eleison, Kyrie eleison. Lord Jesus Christ, thou art the good shepherd. With thy almighty hand, thou guidest thy pilgrim church through the storms of each age. Adorn the Holy See with holy popes who neither fear the powerful of this world nor compromise with the spirit of the age, but preserve, strengthen, and defend the Catholic faith unto the shedding of their blood, and observe, protect, and hand on the venerable liturgy of the Roman Church. Wow. O Lord, return us to holy popes who, inflamed with the zeal of the apostles, proclaim to the whole world, salvation is found in no other than in Jesus Christ. For there is no other name under heaven given to men whereby they may be saved. From Acts chapter 4. Through an era of holy popes, may the Holy See, which is home to all who promote the Catholic and Apostolic faith, always shine as the cathedra of truth for the whole world. Hear us, O Lord, and through the intercession of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, Mother of the Church, grant us holy popes. Grant us many holy popes. Have mercy on us and hear us. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Now, this prayer alone sounds a little bit like a critique of what's been lacking on the chair of Peter for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pontificates, but it's the traditional prayer for imploring holy popes, and it is absolutely non-political for us to pray for such a thing. It's what God wills. He wanted the church to have strong leaders. who boldly proclaim Christ. Salvation is found in none other than Christ. They strengthen and preserve the faith unto the shedding of their blood. They're not afraid of the powerful of this world, and they do not compromise with the spirit of the age. I'm sorry to say, on the eve of Francis's funeral, that this does not sound at all like him. They observe, protect, and hand on the venerable liturgy of the Roman Church. I mean, this sounds, like a veiled critique, but it's not. We just want holy popes. It's that simple. So today's show should be informative for you, I hope, and we're going to jump into it in a second. Remember to click that like button, and more important, even the subscribe button. We're trying to reach 100,000 subscribers. Help us reach that goal by clicking like and subscribe. Also, if you want to help out, if you want to support this show, if you're a longtime viewer, please consider giving to us on Locals, which is connected to this video. Locals, you get cool stuff, you get updates, you get to interact more than you would otherwise. I've been kicked off of Patreon. I've lost jobs. So for being a truth teller, only wicked prizes for the good. Amen. Anyway, also get yourself and your family. What are you doing in a blue state? Out of that blue state, get to a red state today. Go to www.realestateforlife.org. Okay. So the funeral of Pope Francis begins tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Rome time. It's 3 a.m. Central, where I'm at. It's going to be led by Giovanni Battista Re, the Dean of the College of Cardinals. There are 170 foreign delegations will be present. This will include Antonio Guterres, the Relator General of the UN, Emmanuel Macron, and maybe his father husband or whatever. Zelensky, maybe he'll bring his Decepticons tracksuit. Now, hopefully he'll dress up for once. Will we see the Decepticons tracksuit at the funeral? He wore the Decepticons tracksuit to the White House, but this is an even more formal occasion than that. So will we see him in a tie and church shoes?
We should take some sort of poll to see if Zelensky will actually, like an adult human male, wear a suit to the Pope's funeral. By the way, I just saw that Biden is going now too.
Oh, Biden's going. I thought he was dead. I literally thought Biden was dead for a second. Okay, Biden's going too. And Dr. Jill, she'll probably be in arm. Giorgia Meloni, the Prime Minister of Italy, who idiots were saying was based when she first became Prime Minister of Italy. Remember that? A woman leader.
Oh, boy.
Donald and Melania Trump, who had been targeted by Pope Francis on multiple occasions, in both a named and a sort of subtweeted, unnamed way. Prince William, is that the bald one?
Yes, that's the bald one.
That guy is so bald. Javier Milei, who is the president of Pope Francis's home country of Argentina, who had also been, crossed swords with Pope Francis on many occasions. Those are just some of the glitterati who will attend, heads of state who will attend. There are, like I said, 170 foreign delegations. St. Peter's is now closed because it's approaching 7 at night there. And there's a long line to pay the final pre-funerary respects. Regarding the funeral itself, I don't know. I was having a hard time to discern what forms of the liturgy will be there. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Regarding the burial itself, Pope Francis changed the rules like he did with most stuff. So he can now be laid out and buried like any son or daughter of the church without the use of an elevated bier topped with cushions. Pope Francis had said there's too many cushions. He called the old ritual too ornate. He always says this. So this is a man, remember, as he passes into memory, one of the things that I remember most about him is he leaned unto his own understanding so much, right? And he was calling everything too ornate. So everything the church did was too ornate for him, including his own burial. He also got rid of the 3 coffin practice. Typically, a pontifical coffin is 3 coffins sort of Russian dolled into one, cypress, lead, and oak. Instead, he opted for a single wooden coffin lined with zinc. Interesting. Zinc is good for you. I wonder why he went for zinc. In his burial, the burial will be in Santa Maria Maggiore. It's also a break with the traditional burial in the grottos beneath St. Peter's. I guess Santa Maria Maggiore is Pope Francis's great devotion. He would pray there before and after trips. I didn't know this. So at least he had a devotion to the Virgin Mary. You're looking for anything in all of this because it is funeral of a Holy Roman Pontiff, and you want to say something good or reverential, or you want to venerate what you can about any pontiff, even the likes of Pope Francis. And it's like, oh, this is amazing. You're going through all this stuff where he's like, oh, this is too ornate. I need to change this. I'm going to get, I want to essentially strip down the altars the way that the church has been doing in this auto demolition mode since the 1970s. And then you come across this nice fact that he, even though, again, he's changing the tradition, he wanted to be buried in Santa Maria Maggiore, which is a really beautiful basilica, one of the major 4 basilicas. I'm going to send something over, Steffi, right now. And it has contains a relic of the manger of Christ, which is really amazing. And you're like, this is good. This is good. This is something true, identifiably Catholic that Francis is embracing, and this is not common that he embraces something Catholic. Now, of course, he's still making a change. I don't want to be buried in St. Peter's, but I guess that's his choice. And he's being buried in Santa Maria Maggiore because he had a great devotion to that basilica and thereby to Our Lady. So I'll take that. I just sent you a picture of the procession after the funeral. This always hits me right in the heart because I love the city of Rome. It's a little big town. And can we put that on the screen, Stevie?
If you tweet it, then yes.
So
while you're doing that, do you want me to play a video of Trump's remarks? They're leaving for Rome this morning. He and Melania just left, and so I think that they have it. We have a video of his remarks on the brink of the funeral. Sure, let's go for that.
How would you remember Pope Francis? How would you very well? Good man. He loved the world, actually, and he was just a good man. I met him twice. I thought he was a fantastic kind of a guy.
There you have it.
Fantastic kind of a guy. Now, President Trump doesn't know this, but to say of a Holy Roman Pontiff that he loved the world, probably more accurate than Trump meant to be there. I think, unless he was being really clever, I think he was trying to be deferent. And let me return to this prayer for imploring what a holy pope is for a minute. Adorn the Holy See with holy popes who neither fear the powerful of this world nor compromise with the spirit of the age. So you're really supposed to be in the world, but not love the world or be of the world. And probably suffices to say that Donald Trump's comment is accurate. The glove fits, even if not in the way that Trump meant it. Or maybe he did mean it that way. That would be really subtle. Very interesting. The procession after the funeral tomorrow is to, of course, cross the Tiber. Vatican City is west of the Tiber. And they'll cross through, the Trastevere region just south of the Vatican, cross over the river then, and they're going to cross right near Piazza Navona and the Pantheon area. And they're going to head east sort of through the central part of the city near Via del Corso. Do we have that map up?
Yes.
And Santa Maria Maggiore is sort of smack dab in the center of the Rome, a little bit north, getting to the northern part of the city. It's so small that you feel kind of silly identifying what constitutes central and what constitutes north. And they will wind up there at Santa Maria Maggiore. They're going to dip south. They're passing right by the Colosseum They just go under the Pantheon, a couple blocks underneath the Pontifical Gregorian University, dip down La Bicana. I know these streets. So when they take that southeasterly dip, after they pass the Pantheon, they will go southeast, and that is on La Bicana. They'll pass through the Roman Fora, and go right. They almost are going to hit, if I'm looking at this correctly, very close to where our apartment was. They dip really far south. Do you see that, Steffi?
Mm-hmm.
What was that? What was that sort of meeting spot right near our apartment? I forget what it is. Then they'll head north to Santa Maria Maggiore. But they're very, actually, this procession goes really close to where our apartment was in Rome.
So cool.
Yeah, so I love Roman stuff. And I mean, if you don't believe me, you always hear me say Rome is a little big town. Look at the scale here. 1 mile is like, they're only probably 3 miles from end to end. And you're going from Vatican City into Rome proper. It's very, very small.
It is very small. You could drop us anywhere in that city and we'd know exactly where we are. Yeah. I've never been in a city like that.
No.
Yeah.
Because American cities are, you walk around, you get, killed by urbans, that's just, you can't really get to know your American city that well. They're huge, they're sprawling, they're ugly. American cities are just tragedies. They're intentionally built ugly. I think Kevin Williamson did a really nice article on this in the National Review 13 or 14 years ago. But the point is, we love Rome. This procession is beautiful. It's beautiful. They're taking the time to do it. They dip all the way southeast, and then they go back up north to Santa Maria Maggiore, to which Pope Francis had a special great devotion.
Our apartment was right at the elbow, right there between the Colosseum and Santa Maria Maggiore. It was like right where you see like the drastic uptick. It was like right at that crux.
Just south of it, right?
Yeah.
Because that so if you look just south of the elbow, that would be what's that piazza called?
Porta Maggiore.
Porta Maggiore, thank you. I always forget that. That's Porta Maggiore. And so we're a little if you go south of it, right there, and then if you could go a little east off the map, that would be our street,
right.
Viale Scalo della San Lorenzo, which comes right off of Porta Maggiore. So people are like, why are you telling us? It's just cool.
Meaningful to us. Our daughter was born right there on Tiber. You see Tiber River. Abby was born right there in the little island, right in the middle of Tiber Island, right there. So very meaningful for us.
Fate Bene Fratelli Hospital. Yeah, we have so many memories there from just, between a year and a half of life over there. We're supposed to stay longer. And we came back home after Abby was born, needing all those brain surgeries. But God bless Pope Francis. I'll be praying for him today and tomorrow, and I hope you guys will be too. I hope he can go to heaven. The funeral begins what's called the Novem Diales, the 9 days of mourning, that will end. Depends on when they begin these. Will this begin at like noon tomorrow? Meaning it will end at noon, basically midnight on the following Sunday. That means what we can expect chronologically is the conclave for the ostensibly 267th Pope to begin the week after next. And all of next week will be swallowed up by the Novem Diales, the traditional 9 days of mourning. And I'm looking for a pocketbook. I'm looking for a date book. So that would mean that Monday the 5th or Tuesday the 6th, depending on the way they count that, will be the expected date of the conclave. We might get pushed to Wednesday the 7th, but it'll be one of those days, 5th, 6th, or 7th of May, that will begin the new conclave. I expect that conclave to actually go reasonably short.
Let me see if I can get a picture of the church up too, because people were saying that they like seeing the images from Rome.
Okay.
Santa Maria Maggiore, right?
Santa Maria Maggiore, yeah. So the Novem Diales begin, 9 days after the funeral. The funeral is usually 5 6-ish days after a pope dies, sometimes 7, 8. So they pretty much have a time frame of the conclave will begin anytime after one pope dies. His successor, the conclave to nominate his successor, will be 15 to 20 days after his death. Will begin therein. So, you take the date of the death to add on 5, 6, 7 days to the funeral, right? I guess Francis will have taken 5 days to the funeral, and then the Novum Diales begin. Maybe they don't count the funeral day, so that's an extra day. So that's like 6 days plus 9. So that's 15 days after his death. If the funeral took a little longer to get to, you'd be like in the 17 or 16 day post mortem beginning of conclave region, and that's precisely what they say to expect: 15 to 20 days after the death. Interestingly, what was that lesion on the left side of Francis's face, Steph? Called?
I think it's called liver mortis.
Liver mortis. Sure. You said it was liver mortis. Francis has on his face liver mortis, which is not. I don't think we've seen that with Benedict at his funeral or John Paul II. We saw Cardinal Pell have a broken nose because Francis's agents defiled the corpse. We know that. Just the facts, right? But no one defiled Francis's corpse. I'm wondering how into this theory to get, but the liver mortis sets in when a dead body is turned on its side. He was laying on evidently the left side of his face. The blood pooled there, and it typically happens like 4 hours after death. If a person dies and their body sits there without the head facing straight up. I don't know if you guys have heard anyone comment on this, but I guess Steph's theory, which conformed to my overall theory, was that Francis might have died a little bit earlier than we're being told. Maybe did he die in his sleep? Did he die maybe before he went to sleep on Easter Sunday? It's possible because liver mortis evidently had set in. What possible? I'm just rapping here, and I would not lay even a mild sum of money on this, but I don't think that the Vatican would admit it if Pope Francis died on Easter Sunday. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, did you look up the liver mortis thing, Steph?
No, I've looked it up before. I did notice, just so that we're making sure that we're being careful here, that when he was alive, he did appear to have some bruising already present there on that part of his face, and this is just something that happens. I think when people die, obviously there's no circulation. So I know a lot of people on Twitter, for example, were discussing this bruise that he had on his face, and that can happen, like when you're in a position after death, your body kind of pulls to the lowest point because obviously there's not circulation. So that was just something interesting because everybody, obviously as Catholics, we have for our Pope, we have the open casket for several days. He is laying in state. So people are noticing some of these things about his appearance in his casket.
Okay, so people did notice it, and so you don't think it's liver mortis anymore?
I do, but I don't know what that means.
Yeah. The good thing about rules for retrogrades and this YouTube channel, there's a lot of bad stuff about it, I guess. People in the comments are almost exclusively the people that tell us the bad part. Everything's got, you take the bad with the good. But one of the good things is unlike a lot of other Catholics who have YouTube channels, I'll always tell you, this is straight up speculation, straight up theory. It's never, I think, too out there or idiotic, but I do think it's interesting that Francis died on very early on Easter Monday. Could they have fudged the hour? What if he died at 11:48 p.m. on Easter Sunday? Would the Vatican want it going into the record books that a pope died on Easter Sunday? I think not. That doesn't make my little conspiracy theory true. He probably just died whenever they said he died at 4 or 5 a.m. on Easter Monday or 6 a.m., whatever it was. But it stands to reason that they wouldn't want to say Francis died on Easter Sunday. So
Tim, there's a live feed right now. Just sorry to break in, but looks like there's some movement here. Live look at the Vatican. Looks like they have stopped all the general visitors coming in to visit the Pope, and we have the Swiss Guard is there. They're looks like they're switching out. Looks like there's some movement here. So I'm just going to leave this up on the screen for people to see. I know they'll be closing the casket at some point, but we have maybe some prominent people coming up to the front of the.
I thought St. Peter's
there.
closed like a half hour ago.
We have, this is a live look right now. Well, I was watching it while you were live. They must have, you know how it is with St. Peter's. They'll close things down, and they'll let the remaining people who are there to visit filter through, and then the doors are closed, but they kind of let the people who've been in line for some time to come in. So it looks like there is some movement right now. I'm just going to leave it on. I'll break in and tell you if there's anything major happening.
It's sort of you're waiting in the lengthy late night drive-through line at Cookout to get those world famous quesadillas. And what do they close at? 2, 3, 4? And they're just a bunch of college kids ahead of you. And they're going to take anyone who is in line by 2 a.m. when they closed, kind of thing. Standard politeness. So, well, I don't know. This is, I really, when we were talking about covering this like live, first off, you guys, a lot of you first saw me on YouTube when I would have to get up at 5:45 a.m. to do shows with Taylor. And, they were saying yesterday they thought I was a pothead. I'm a guy who's never smoked a cigarette, let alone a marijuana cigarette.
Never.
So, no, you're just looking at a very, very tired Italian stallion. I do not do early mornings, and 5:45 is obscene. I don't even like doing 8:30. So, when you consider the prospect of not getting up at 5:45, but getting up at something like 2:45 a.m., I would just stay up half the a third of the time, maybe a quarter of the time, a couple times a week. We're up at 2:45 a.m. anyway. So we'd probably be a pre-bed rather than a post-bed show. But ultimately we decided it's probably not respectful to run a show through a funeral. I mean, the funeral is the demonstration. It is you pay respect silently. Mm-hmm. So I think that's why we wanted to do a pre-funerary show rather than a during the funeral show. And let's just be honest. Can we talk about this for a second on the second matter? This is really a forum of complex emotions for a lot of Catholics. Not even just the ones that are kind of in the know, not even just traditionalists, but the interesting thing with American, even kind of normie Catholics, if they're also normie conservatives, is that this was not a pope that they connected with, right? Even your typical sort of maybe fallen away conservative normie guy who doesn't even go to church this is not his favorite pope, Francis. And that's the understatement of the year. So the pope dies. Protestants begin talking wild shit everywhere and on Twitter. And the instinct that I think is right-minded is to defend not only this particular decedent, fallen man, who is a particular pope, but the pontificate in general. Because Protestants, their orienting instinct always seems to be, and this is what I learned this week on Twitter, to defile, to tear down, to protest, to demur. No, I mean, in some ways, they had a lot in common with Francis. These were his orienting instincts too. But they're just a lot of poking fun at one thing the Protestant dummies with 2,000 word vocabularies would say is like the pomp and circumstance. They thought this is they all are trained to say this, at their little fish and fry converted Protestant churches near the Chuck E. Cheese or whatever. They're all taught to say, oh, I don't like all the pomp and circumstance. But I mean, what the hell else do you do? This is the leader of the world.
Right.
Yeah. This is the leader a chair instituted by Christ himself, way more important than president of the U.S. So speak of the kind of Zelensky spirit of, being people say I underdress. This is a podcast, dude. This is in a bedroom in my house, but I would never go to the White House, let alone a funeral of the most important man on earth, the Holy Roman Pontiff, in anything but my dress blues. Or dress blacks. So you get the kind of...
Looks like, by the way, Tim, sorry to break in there, but looks like they are clearing people out of the Vatican right now. And there's some movement. They're kind of clearing out the chairs and making sure nobody's in view of these last, I think, images of the Pope. So they are
hiding behind the coffin.
Yeah, nobody. There's some prominent clergy there, and looks like they're the only ones that are present right now. And if you looked at this live feed, this is Vatican Media Live on YouTube, by the way, if you guys all want to see that yourselves. But if you look at this live feed, and if you were watching that a little bit earlier, there were a lot of people there this morning, and I think last time I read the actual numbers was last evening, and the Vatican was estimating already like 90,000 people had been through the line to see Pope Francis lie in state. But I'll break in if there's anything.
Is that on screen?
It is on screen. Yeah,
so people can see.
Yeah.
The funeral procession is just looking at that map is just bringing it back for me. So, I forget what I was saying. Just the kind of Zelensky spirit, the Protestant spirit of being underdressed to a major event, and to charge anyone who actually dresses up properly to venerate, to observe respects, is called, someone who's pompous, full of pomp and circumstance. And the ironic thing about what a lot of the Protestants, American Protestants, were saying this past week about Pope Francis's planned funeral, with all its pomp and circumstances, that they have the spirit of Francis himself. Francis had that kind of spirit of making fun of all the grandeur. And it just makes me happy to be a Catholic, to be honest. It doesn't matter, that we're going to get some good popes, we're going to get some bad popes, but I'm happy that we have that pomp and circumstance to sustain us. So I don't have that Zelensky spirit. I just don't do the 3-piece suits in a room in my house when I'm going to go walk around in my house shoes and raid the pantry for Triscuits after I'm done. Right. I don't want to be in a 3-piece suit. But I hope everyone that goes tomorrow is respectful. I hope Zelensky is out of his Decepticons tracksuit and in a 3-piece suit.
Does appear like they will be moving the Pope soon out of St. Peter's. They are removing the barricades. The clergy are gathering, and I believe some of the pallbearers are waiting there. So I mean, obviously, at some point they are going to take him to the church where he will be entombed. But it looks like that's happening right now. So I'll let you know.
But they're not going to take him before the funeral, right? Because the funeral's at St. Peter's, and then they're going to move him to.
That's a good point. I don't know. They removed the barricades in front of him, and the shot is on right now. But they removed the barricades, and some of the clergy are there, and they're taking down some of the candles and that sort of thing. So it appeared to me that they were going to do that, but maybe not. I'll keep an eye on it and let you know.
You have any thoughts on this? I mean, you've been watching him lie in state for. A couple days. I mean, not a couple days straight, but you'll have this on, which I think this is part of the thing I've always loved and respected about you, Steffi's. We'll be watching whatever. We were trying to start that Celtics documentary last night, and you just had the laptop here with kind of quietly you're watching, keeping an eye on Pope Francis lie in state. There's a very respectful, demure, venerable aspect to that, and I'm just usually too lazy to get this stuff up, but I always like how you do that.
Yeah, for me, because I'm a convert, so I love the traditions of the church. I really respect them, and it's one of the things that really spoke to me. Obviously, I converted because my husband's Catholic initially, because I wanted to respect your wishes on how to raise the children. But I really fell in love with the faith, and I'm so glad to be here. And at a time like this, where we have a death of our Pope, it's very interesting what the church does, like all the tradition, all the rituals and that sort of thing. And like you said, we had our differences with Pope Francis. I hate even having to do the disclaimer, but we had our differences with him. But death speaks to all of us, and it will come to all of us. And so when we have even a very flawed leader of our church has died and he's lying there in state, it did just feel more appropriate to me just to kind of keep it on and just keep an eye on him and, be there as much as I can be, because again, this is a historical moment. I mean, for us, for Catholics, and really for the world, this is a historical moment. I know some Protestants on Twitter were making fun of all of our rituals and our
They hate it, but they know it.
They hate it, but they know. But you should show the tweet that you did the other day, kind of poking fun back at them, because Catholics, we do things properly. Like there's that famous meme, like you'll get used to how we do things around here. Properly. Like that's what we do. And so for me, just having, it's not every day, your Pope dies and now we have social media and all these things. So we're all kind of up to date with what's happening and what we're seeing, these images, we're seeing all of these, the cardinals convene and all the images that are coming out of the Vatican. So, it's a good time to kind of just reconnect with all that. So, yeah.
I retweeted that tweet if you want to show it.
Sure. Yeah.
It's a little set of factoids. Did you know that when a Protestant church elder dies, a beautiful and venerated tradition established in 1972 follows? Firstly, the flag of Israel atop a former Chuck E. Cheese, now Christian Center, goes half staff for 9 days.
God wills it.
The day is full. Their version of the Novem Diales. Secondly, the said elder's wife meets with all his ex-wives and his ex-girlfriends for a Cracker Barrel pancake bruncheon.
Lord,
very important. A kind of their version of Last Supper. They like crackers in the communion, so they go to the Cracker Barrel. Thirdly, a 50% off coupon is traditionally, down through the centuries, been offered to the adjoining building, Wings and Things, distributed to all the faithful at that church. Fourthly, 7 days of mourning are observed at all metropolitan Walmart and Sam's Club tire center locations. So I think they get a 50% off coupon for all their tire and seasonal snow tire needs.
Rotation and alignment
Balance,
needs.
Realignment.
Yeah, very reverent.
That's important. This is the elder or whatever, the sacred elder, whatever they call him. He dies. This is important. And fifthly, the youth pastor's van is impounded and destroyed like the fisherman's ring of the Pope. So
to prevent misuse, I believe.
Look at that picture. Can we maximize that picture of the beautiful architecture of an American Protestant basilica? They're such fucktards. I mean, they're just how anyone is Protestant is beyond me.
Can you speak, please, for a moment? Let me get this on. Can you speak you were on a show this morning, very interesting. We're going to post this on the channel, but it was
Manila Chan's.
Manila Chan's channel was very, very kind invitation, but it was a very interesting dialogue because on the channel, there was also a gentleman who is Catholic, but he has a lot of boomer Novus Ordo ideas. And, I think he was kind of like trying to understand where Tim was coming from. So they're interchanged in the questions that he was asking Tim, like, what about a divorce? And what about people who don't understand the Latin Mass and those sorts of things? Very interesting. It was a very, very fun interview. So we'll try to post that on the channel. Very nice invitation. But one of the questions they had was hot off the heels on what you just showed. Record numbers of people converting to the Catholic faith. Mm-hmm. And some people are attributing that to Francis, and others like yourself have a different point of view. But could you talk about that? Because this year, this Easter, all over the world, it was just crazy numbers of people, particularly young people entering into the faith.
Well, really specifically, those numbers are not because of Francis, they're post-Francis. They're responses to Francis. When he published Traditionis Custodes, he was thumbing his thumb in the eye of traditionalists, and he was saying, I'm the guardian of tradition by guarding the Novus Ordo from the incurring of the TLM. because he was so mad that the numbers are so high at the TLM parishes in and out of American, French, Italian cities. That all of the young families with young parents and 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 kids attend the TLM. The dying parishes are the Novus Ordos, where they have the clown mass and the free throw line Jesus, where they're saying mass and auditoriums and things like that, and they stripped out the altars. They just have the Cranmer tables. They have all the girls doing all the stuff, altar girls, altar women. The priests don't hand out communion. They stripped out the altar rails. You're not allowed to take it on your knees. You have to take it on your dirty hands. All that. There's you have your typical sort of every boomer couple is or divorced and remarried couple. They've got their 1.7 children from their original marriage. They share the one new kid. Just that failed paradigm of modernism, which lasted about 60 years, and then it died about 50 years, because really this new neo-traditionalism began almost 10 years ago, and it's tip of the hat, doff of the cap to the guys that held it down in the 80s, 90s, 2000s. But the traditionalists weren't popularizing the message then. It became wildly popular sometime last decade, 2018, I would say, 2019, 2020. That's when all these young people started going to the Latin Mass, and it became really popular. And the numbers just don't bear out the lie, the Vatican II era lie, that modernism will win the crowd. They just don't. Modernism killed the crowd, destroyed the numbers, and return to tradition is always what brings people back. And Francis, as I said in the show yesterday, was such a bête noire to the traditionalists that it actually prodded them into action and made it undeniable for center leftists and even moderate leftists, moderate modernists in the church to deny that the spirit of Vatican II program of modernization was a failure. So it was like victory was its greatest defeat for modernism. They kind of won in the personnel. They got to do whatever program of deconstruction they wanted, and everyone hated it. And then people started seeing a glimmer of tradition and bimillennialism and real apostolic lineage. And they came back to the faith. And Francis, you could say what you want. Everyone has strengths. There are a couple things about him I did like, but he hated it. He hated it. He was red in the face about it. He passed out in rage at Domus Santa Marta. He was so mad at these guys, like his prefect of the Congregation of Divine Worship, Cardinal Serra, who was making the Latin Mass readily available. He was really mad at his prefect of the Apostolic Signatura at the time, Cardinal Burke, who was a big proponent of the Latin Mass. He hated these guys, and he demoted them. But he couldn't stop it. You can't get in the way of true regression, which is true progress, going back to it's devolution, as the late great Justice Antonin Scalia would always say, devolution. It's the true progress. And evolution is bullshit. Devolution, going back to what works, being retrograde. That's what it's all about. And that's what brought this Catholic springtime into the church. The Catholic springtime attempted by Clinton and Obama and the Podesta brothers in 2007 was a failure. So say what you want about, us Catholics, but we can always find accentuate the positive in even a really, really dark pontificate like this was. But we can also, we can acknowledge truly what our flaws are. And there's no flaws in the apostolic tradition. The flaws are always in the men. Did you have anything? Do you think that's right?
Yeah.
Is that because people were getting really sensitive on Catholic Twitter? People were getting oversensitive, and I'd say over defensive, and tone policing each other. Like, we have to talk about Francis like he was a saint. I don't think he is a saint. I think that's very conservative. And Protestants were really spiking the football when he died. And, we always try to pick the golden mean.
Right. Did you show the Tagle? Or some people in chat are asking who you think is going to be the next pope. That's always a fun question, but
okay. Well, this is Schrodinger's cat. You never know if they're lying about who they favor. So there was a big lie in the 2013 conclave. That lie was that Francis was a total surprise. This is not true at all. Francis was relatively unknown in 2005's conclave to people like you and me, to lay people. But guess what? Who he was not unknown to? He was not unknown to the cardinals. And I can prove this. He came second in the voting to Cardinal Ratzinger. You can't call him an unknown if he's coming second in the voting. And until the fourth scrutiny, he was basically almost locked in votes with Ratzinger. Ratzinger was the presumptive candidate. And yet from 2005 all the way to 2013, they were spinning out the popular lie that Bergoglio was an unknown. They were saying this after he won the pontificate, or however you say it in the electoral terms of the church. After he prevailed at the 2013 conclave, they're still spinning this lie that he was an unknown. Well, he came second last time. That'd be like if, after Hillary Clinton, who nearly was president in 2016, you're calling her an unknown in 2020. So it's just not true. And I'm relating this memory of 2005, 2013 to make a point. The Cardinals all, I think, know who they're going to vote for. And they are not supposed to canvass. We've talked about this a lot with what was wrong with the 2013 conclave. But they all know who they're going to vote for. And they know that they're going to vote for one of probably 3 or 4 guys. So is this Cardinal Secretary of State Parler? He's being called a moderate. He's left of center. He's not particularly likable or liked, particularly after all the phone tapping, which would have had to happen under his watch. Francis really turned out to be not the loving, Pope of the people. He turned out to be the autocratic kind of Juan Perón figure who was wiretapping the cardinals. And this was done under the careful watch of Cardinal Secretary of State Parler, who's not really beloved by either the left in the College of Cardinals or the right, because he's a moderate. Everyone hates moderates, right? I mean, he's more left-leaning than anything, but he's not a Cardinal Soupy, who's a far leftist, or a Cardinal, Fernandez Tucho, who's a far leftist. No one's talking about Tucho Fernandez as particularly Papabile, by the way. But so I do think, you kind of have to mention the centrist guy, because Schrodinger's cat being what it is, if they just go with, I don't know, I don't really know where I am, I don't really know what I want, which is always what I kind of believe about these empty-headed archbishops and cardinals. They're kind of told what to want and what to do. So I guess he would be a safe choice because he's not offensively left or offensively right. I don't think they like him, though, because he was standing by for the autocratic rule, sort of reign of terror of the latter half of Francis's pontificate. But then, if worst case scenario would be a Cardinal Zuppi, who's one of the furthest left guys. Also, sort of second worst case scenario would be a Cardinal Tagle, who was being called very Papabile, 6-7 years ago. I don't know that he is. He's just a bit too Asian, a little too K-pop. We'll show you a K-pop video of Cardinal Tagle singing the Bruise.
The Bruise.
Singing the Bruise. We'll show you that in a second. But so I think Cardinal Tagle would be really bad. Cardinal Zuppi, the Italian, the Cardinal Archbishop of Bologna, would be maybe worst case scenario. I don't think there are any German synodal way characters. Cardinal Koch, Nominus Domin, is not really associated directly with him, and he's considered Papabile. Best case scenario, we're talking Cardinal Sarah. I did that show yesterday. I told you he's a 10Xer. He comes up X on all 10 of the major issues they're looking at. For Cardinal, you want as many X's as you can. Cardinal Burke would be, pie in the sky. They hate North Americans. There's a lot of racism in the College of Cardinals. And it kind of goes both ways. Europeans don't really like anyone but Europeans. The global South guys don't like North Americans. The Europeans don't like North Americans. They all kind of look down on each other. So, which is kind of based. But the problem is that Cardinal Burke, in many ways, should be our Pope. But I just haven't talked about that because it's not going to happen. Cardinal Sarah probably won't happen, but that would be, I think, somewhat plausible best case scenario. There's also here no Tucho, no German Synodal Way candidate. So it's pretty much Zuppi he could happen. Are the Cardinals lying, like I asked yesterday, about being ready for more tradition? Have they been sort of blackpilled by Francis, even the moderate leftists? If so, then they're not going to go Zuppi or Tagle singing the brews.
The bros.
They might just go, well, let's just go Cardinal Secretary of State Parler, who would be more of the same in the post-conciliar church, just a center leftist who's been complicit in everything. Or maybe they go Cardinal Sarah. Cardinal Pizzaballa is young, and that would be good. He's reasonably young. But I don't know that we know enough about him. I don't know how he's regarded in the college. I know, for instance, Cardinal Sarah is known by everyone as a holy man. That's just he's a spiritual master. He was the prefect of the Congregation of Divine Worship. He knows what he knows what he's doing, and he would be a real father for not only us conservatives or traditionalists or whatever, but I think everyone feels, even maybe these cardinals and archbishops know that they're parish orphans, even though they're old, wrinkled men, they're parish orphans. And we just want someone that'll teach us the sort of spirituality of the Desert Fathers, the Eastern part of the church, the Pilgrim Church. Being a pilgrim church and being an orphaned church are not the same thing. So I think everyone kind of longs for a spiritual master, and that's what makes me hope. Dare we hope for Cardinal Sarah? What do you think, Steph? What do you think of all this?
Yeah, no, sorry, my mic is up. I'm with you on all of that. I was just looking at that funny video of Tagle. Am I saying that right? Tagle.
Yeah, Tagle.
Doing some karaoke. People, obviously the trads and us are like making fun of that. I saw some priest that was trying to defend him, and they said, "Hey, this is Filipino culture. We do karaoke when we get around." It's just funny when people do that with the culture stuff, because they're always like presuming that some things in every culture aren't just stupid and mock worthy. It's like, yeah, I get it. It's your culture. That's stupid. It's dumb. I'm going to make fun of that. There's lots and lots and lots of things that just because a culture does it doesn't mean that it's off limits. It's no, it's that was stupid. If karaoke is that big a part of your culture, then that's dumb. I mean, that's pretty silly, but I'll put that. I don't know if you want to show everybody.
Cardinal, singing. Imagine, remember, everybody, in his culture, in the Asian culture, karaoke is very, very important, and K-pop and singing the brews, very important.
Here we go.
So imagine.
Will you imagine?
Imagine all the people sharing all the world.
Look at that guy go.
Oh dear.
I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one.
By the way, nobody has ever done that song and not struggled terribly with that world.
Yeah. It's a tough trill. It's a tough
That's
trill.
a rough one. Oh no.
And with the Asian sort of tenor 2 voice that he's hitting there, almost a falsetto.
Yikes.
It's just not working, Cardinal Tagle. I mean, can you imagine if that guy became Pope? That would just be it would be a K-pop pontificate.
Oof.
He'd be breaking into song, showing off his, calculator skills, his Hello Kitty backpack.
Apparently,
We're
he was
not ready for it.
barefoot while he was singing that.
That's so gross, dude.
It's almost like Vanu Malesh. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Vanu Malesh. Shout out to Andrew, who will be texting us about this. But look up Vanu Malesh on YouTube. It's like the genre of like very cringe, hilarious music. This is an Indian guy who does "It's My Life." Do yourself a favor and look up Vanu Malesh, "It's My Life." But the guy is barefoot in every single one of his music videos. It's amazing.
And the guy sings his heart out. You leave Vanu Malesh out of this. Just because he's from the subcontinent of Africa does not mean he's a Cardinal Tagle. Cardinal Tagle is nothing compared to a Vanu Malesh, to a Hope or a Bind. Don't just bite your tongue, woman. Bite your tongue.
Did they send you, by the way, Manila Chan, did they send you any of that, the clips from that show? Because I would just love to
you guys are
show you that.
You're going to flip. Oh, they might have. Great hit. Thank you so much, Tim.
While you're looking, why don't we look at Vanu Malesh for just a second? How about that?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So she liked that. I was arguing with her producer guy a lot. He was. Hey. Oh, okay. We're going Vanu.
Yeah, but it's not a song.
It's my life.
Okay, you'll get a feel, but we won't do the whole thing. There we go. This might be one of the greatest songs ever.
It's a great song. It's a great song. Cardinal Tagle should sing this. It's my theme song.
Here we go.
It's my life.
Whatever I want to do,
It's my life. Wherever
I want to go.
It's my life.
This should be the new Go Make a Difference. So people now have
I'd go to the Novus Ordo willingly if we had Vanu Malesh rocking at church.
and really, isn't that all that is? It's just like the Tagle, like imagine. It's just all like Go Make a Difference type of stuff. And boomer Catholics love it. This is what you were saying to on your interview this morning. You were telling a very nice man, but you were explaining to him that the boomers wanted to inject like monkeys, Beatle type of like hooray for everything type music into mass. And people our age, and now we're old and younger, the guys, the Zoomers, they're just not putting up with that crap anymore. Like they're so alienated by it. Yeah. And he really wasn't getting it. Like that. I don't know what happened. Every generation, because we'll have the boomers write us an email like, how dare you talk about the boomers? It's like, guys, you guys are the most sensitive generation of any generation. Like every generation is stupid, is fake and gay in their own ways. I know how my generation is fake and gay, but you gotta just admit it. The boomers, come on, you guys are super corny. You liked corny stuff.
Yeah. I mean, they just got sold a bill of lies, a bill of goods that's not real. The idea that the people are crying out for modernism, that they want religion to be more like a Beatles or a Monkees concert. And that's not what people want, because that's not true. They want a thing to be what it is. People have a kind of orienting instinct toward Aristotle's function argument. The best X is the thing that's the most X. I don't want X to be like Y. And true religion, there's only one true religion. True religion is religious in nature, meaning it's oriented at veneration and adoration and worshipfulness toward the Almighty God. That means that you can't really get fancy with the spices. You can't really just introduce a bunch of girls and women and feminine sentiments and sentimonies as Mo the bartender calls it, into the tradition of liturgy. You just have to have the venerable old chanting Latin worshipfulness. At any time that we memorialize Christ's sacrifice, even a bloodless version, the Mass, it has to be super, super serious, because it's a serious affair, and it is us giving our best to God, and you can't really compromise. And that pretty much just has to be the Mass of the Apostles, the Mass at least of Gregory the Great, and that Mass goes all the way back to Gregory the Great, the Mass that we really like. And it goes hand in hand with following the teachings of Jesus and the teachings that the apostles carried from Jesus. So anytime you wind up in a dialogue the way I did with this gentleman this morning, he's saying, oh, you just want to bring the OG gospel where no one can get a divorce and no one can get remarried and has to be Latin chants and all that. People have an understanding, whether they're on his side of the issue of it or mine, that traditionalism goes with the natural law and unchanging virtues and irreformable doctrine. People know this, even the leftists, even the rightists, even the moderates. We know that traditional chant means you're observing, and I mean, not in every case perfectly, but it means implicitly that you're observing the natural law. You don't expect the natural law or the eternal law to change, because that's impossible. When Christ said, if you divorce your wife and marry another, it's adultery, it applies with equal force today as it did when Christ said it, in whatever that was, 30 AD. And the universe just doesn't change, and human nature changes zero. It's only the traditionalists that seem to understand that. And they're really mad, the people that thought that human nature would change, that the nature of liturgy, what it is and what it does, would change or could change, that it should change, and that morals, most of all, are capable of changing without displeasing God. That's just not true. And anyway, so I got into this funny kind of series of debates with him. I think you guys will find it entertaining. But I do thank Manila for having me on this morning. On Monday, CNN is coming to my house. Evidently, this might air on Anderson Cooper. So that'll be interesting. And I don't know what I'm getting into there, but it'll be really interesting. Might make a Newsmax appearance about all this stuff. The conclave's really interesting. And, we want to get past the funeral, be respectful however we can. It's always, you feel like you're stepping on eggshells a bit before and during the funeral. And then once we get beyond tomorrow, we can, while we're observing the Novem Diales, respectfully, we can really begin doing deep dive conclave shows. And I'm going to be listening, have the antennae out for, there's always a Sankt Gallen Mafia. There's always a Lavender Mafia. Who are they gunning for? What are they're working tirelessly. The question is, what do the center left cardinals have to say to the Sankt Gallen Mafia, who really fooled them the last couple conclaves? That's what's in my mind these days. I don't know how you guys are feeling about it. And I'm just sick of all these Protestants using Pope Francis to talk smack. That's what I'm really sick of. I don't know about you guys. As American Protestants mock us and our dead Pope, we do have to admit what beautiful basilicas they've constructed in America here.
Always in a vacant, like Wingstop or Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah, they make such good recycled use of space.
Sorry, I was just going to let everybody know, because some people are asking when to watch the Pope's funeral. So that will take place at 10 a.m. in Rome time. Obviously, that information is null for us. What that means is, I think it's 4 Eastern. EST. Yeah.
And
so if you want to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and watch it, then feel free. And I'm sure
go ahead, psychos. I mean, there's not going to be a lot happening, but obviously prayer, prayer warriors out there will get up and do it. I'm not calling you guys psychos. It's too early for me, but it is wild that this has happened. I don't know what are other people saying about it, because this is a thing that we knew was coming for a long time. 88-year-old going on 89. He was an old pope to begin with. he was 76 when he was elected. So we knew that he wasn't long for the pontificate. He and his leftist Gaulian mafia members had said, and even Cardinal McCarrick had said, all he really needs is 5 years. And Francis said his first year, I don't think my pontificate will last longer than 5 years. And of course, Uncle Ted McCarrick said at Villanova University, that's all he needs to remake the face of the church whole. So he took longer than 5 years, and he did as much modernist change as he could do in each of those years. It slowed down the last few years, didn't speed up. So we look back at this as a very, very troubled, turbulent time, and we'll see. I do not know if and there aren't that many St. Gallen Mafia members alive, but there's always someone to take their place. If the remaining subversives there are going to have any success at fooling the centrists and center leftists, that's the big question, and it's kind of Schrodinger's cat until we see who they give us. I'm very curious, and with each day I get more curious. I don't know what anyone else was talking about with this, though. Do we have any comments in chat? What are people expecting? What can you really say until we get a picture of it?
Yeah, I think most people are just, buckling up for what will no doubt be a interesting conclave. And I'm checking Twitter right now. They did, I'll put this up. They did eventually get rid of the interior live view of the Pope laying in state. Now it's just switched over to a shot of St. Peter's Basilica. So
yeah, it's like 14 hours and change till the funeral begins. Then the 9 Novem Diales begin, and then the conclave will start probably a day after that. So that's what's up. Anyone out there who has any super chat questions, throw them at us. Otherwise, we'll wrap this up. People
are asking if you've heard anything about James Martin. What's interesting, I did see him doing some tweets. Tim, I don't know if you saw that, but it is always kind of interesting, like some of these teachers' pets, like when the teacher dies, like what happens to these guys. But James Martin was still out there, I think, a couple of days ago, doing tweets about, just LMNOP stuff. And everyone's just like, dude, like get out of here. Yeah.
Uncle James, Slim Jim Martin, Slim Jim. What was he tweeting about? I'm curious.
I think he was like continuing his, reminding everybody about the Pope Francis's commitment to helping his class of James Martin's particular class of people. So he's just, it's just like the annoying pest where everybody's just like, yeah, we know, we get it. That's your thing. Like we understand what you're about. We've heard it. We've heard this garbage for years and years and years now. And it almost felt like when I was reading James Martin's tweet where it's like he lost his biggest advocate. And he's just like, guys, I'm still here. I'm still like, promoting perversity in the church. Just want to let you know, just like pay attention to me. I'm still over here. So it was just a little bit off, but.
Yeah, he's still going to be, gaying things up, that's his special people. So his favor with the next pontificate hangs in the balance till we find out who that Pope is. If you get like a Cardinal Zuppi as the next Pope, then he's going to be in greater favor than he was even in the Francis pontificate.
New numbers are in, about more than 150,000 people now have gathered into St. Peter's Basilica to see the body of Pope Francis lying in state. So we have that on the screen.
That's a lot of people. Well, let's wait and see. Prayerfully wait and see. Pray for the Pope. Pray that he can go to heaven. That's my sincere prayer for Pope Francis for the next 14 hours. This will happen, probably a little bit after we go to bed, because we typically go to bed around midnight, 1. And, we'll come to you early next week once the Novum Diales have begun, and we'll start talking conclave. How about that?
It would be really great, I think, if you could give sometime next week, because I know I'm still learning quite a bit as well. I'd love to hear a breakdown the conclave, the history, what to expect, that sort of thing. So maybe, I don't know, just to throw in an idea out there.
Yeah.
If you'd be game for that, I'd love to learn more about that. And we should run that poll on Twitter, by the way, if Zelensky will wear his Decepticons tracksuit or an actual suit, like a human male,
Like
an adult man
suit to a funeral. Yeah, I'm curious. I'm very curious. Maybe I'll run that poll on Twitter. It'll be amazing to see if he can get the little Decepticons logo onto like an Armani suit. He has that Decepticons logo everywhere. I was an Autobots guy. I'm not gonna lie.
Starscream was pretty based, though.
Yeah. There are some cool Decepticons.
I was always a Starscream fan. We should. People are like, "What are you talking about?" Should we even show what this Decepticons?
Yeah, I mean, just his tracksuit has the Decepticons logo on it, which is interesting.
Let me look if I can see it. Here we go. Oh, here's a picture. Okay, let me see if I can.
Oh, everyone, go have a big burger today. By the way, it's a solemnity as part of the octave, so it's a Friday we can eat meat on. I'm gonna have a burger on a Friday, maybe.
So if you see Zelensky, sorry if it's cutting off there, right there but there he is. See, that's what Tim's talking about. There's a Decepticons tracksuit. So that little symbol there on his lapel. I guess you don't have a lapel when you're just wearing like a thermal, like a.
Yeah. I don't know if lapel applies, but
yeah. So we'll see if he's gonna grace us with a suit tomorrow, like a respect. Oh, did you say I was producing the show, but did you tell everybody that apparently he's already saying he's going to accost Trump, by the way?
Oh no, we talked about that with Manila.
You were talking about this with Manila. The news is that Zelensky is at the funeral of Pope Francis. He's taking this opportunity to like show up in his pajamas and to not attack, but to like confront President Trump. And he announced
the way you do it at a funeral.
Yeah.
This is what a funeral's for. You attack your political foes. You have a giant scene confronting everyone who ever made you feel insecure. just what you do at a funeral. Well, we'll see. Yeah, that is funny, but hopefully he doesn't do it, and hopefully he shows a little class. Shows up in a suit. God bless you guys. We'll see you next week. Pray for Pope Francis's soul and pray that prayer for a holy Pope at the conclave, which will begin the week after next. God bless. Peace.